You have the power, saints. You have the power to alter your lives, but not just for any reason, Bishop. Amen. Dr. Karenga is saying that we should change for productive, progressive, and promising ways. Those are 3 P's. Productive. When's the last time somebody accused you of being productive? I mean, productive means you're producing something, people. You are coming out of your creativity, of your hands, or your mind, or your heart, and you are producing something of what? Value. This is being productive. Malcolm said if you're not being productive, you can be productive. You have that capacity within your God-created self. And then more importantly, you can be progressive. What does that mean? That means you don't have to just be trying to get paid. You don't have to be just trying to make them Benjamins. You don't have to be trying to get them dead presidents to be productive. You can be progressive, which is to say you can be doing something of greater value and worth for the human race, for the planet, and for the world. This is being progressive. And then lastly, and oh so gloriously, Minister Malcolm tells us that we can change in promising ways. Wow. I know that word promise. Promise is sort of like hope. Promise is something you've been told is coming, but you haven't gotten it yet. Someone says, I promise I'm going to pay you back. Or I promise I'm going to be there to sing songs at your first service. Can I get an amen? Promises are about worth the weight of the breath in which they're expunged. But if you change, you can be one of those people that promise things that actually come to be. This is promises that have value. So, again, this is what Malcolm tried to tell us, tried to teach us, and then most importantly, he lived in a way that showed us how to be divine, how to have respect for ourselves, and how to change, how to transform. We're going to move on now with Dr. Karenga's written word. I apologize for that diversion. Dr. Karanga says, it is important to note that in his commitment to Third World alliance and struggle, and to the human project of freedom and flourishing, he argues that within our concern for the world, one must always and rightly start with one's own people, and develop from that a world-encompassing conception of one's obligation and practice. That Dr. Karanga. He writes these sentences. You can say them, but you got to unpack. They got so much in them, Bishop. This man said that even though Malcolm was trying to become a world citizen, that he left the United States, he made a trip to Mecca. That a lot of people think he changed, but that's another whole story. We ain't got to get into that today. But there ain't nothing changed about Malcolm after he left Mecca. He just let y'all know something else about his public persona. But he stayed the same man he said. And I'll read that to you at another time. I'm telling you that the real value of his travel was his connection of what was going on in America, what was going on around the world. And he said that even though we are world citizens, we have an obligation to start at home. We have an obligation to start at home. This is Malcolm's words, as Dr. Karanga repeats them here. He said, I can state in all sincerity that I wish nothing but freedom, justice, equality, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all people. He writes in the Egyptian Gazette. However, the first law of nature is self-preservation. So my first concern is the oppressed group of people to which I belong, the 22 million African Americans. Now, another book that I've been reading lately, called The Political Legacy of Malcolm X, by Oba Tashaka. He has Malcolm being quoted in here as saying a similar thing, but another way. And I'd like to read that as well. Malcolm says here, when he's talking to an audience of young people, he said, "It's true that I'm a Muslim, and I believe in brotherhood, and I believe in the brotherhood of all men. But my religion doesn't make me a fool." Now, does your religion make you a fool? No. He said, "My religion makes me be against all forms of racism. It keeps me from judging any man by the color of his skin. It teaches me to judge him by his deeds and conscious behavior. And it teaches me to be for the rights of all human beings, but especially for the Afro-American human being, because my religion is a natural one, and the first law of nature is self-preservation." I think that's pretty clear. We're going to continue on. We're almost done here. Excuse me. Malcolm is concerned that we understand ourselves and our humanity in expansive ways, in ways in which they are big. Not only as part of the rising, rebellious, and revolutionary tide of history, but also as bearers of dignity and divinity, worthy of the highest respect and equal and unalienable rights, to fight fiercely and uncompromisingly for those rights. Malcolm says, "We are fighting for the right to live as free human beings." That's all, y'all. They always say, "What do black people really want?" Malcolm says we are fighting for the right to live as free human beings. He says we declare our right on this earth to be a man or a woman, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given rights as a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring in existence by any means necessary. Malcolm, as a moral teacher, also taught us to think deeply and to think in self-determined ways as an ethical obligation. He tells an audience of African-American college students, "One of the first things I think young people nowadays should learn is how to see for yourself, listen for yourself, and think for yourself. Ever mindful of the awesome burden of history placed on each generation and the critical juncture which they stood," he continues by saying, "This generation, especially of our people, has a burden, more so than any other time in history." Thus, he concludes, re-emphasizing that the most important thing we can do is think for ourselves. Indeed, like Frantz Fanon and Sekou Touré, he knew that the decolonized mind precedes and makes possible political decolonization